Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Notice is hereby given that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, the laws of 1975, notice of this meeting has been sent to all school offices, officially designated newspapers, filed with the Township Clerk, and posted in the Board of Education office 48 hours in advance of this meeting. Roll call, please.
Certainly. Mrs. Pintarelli?
Here.
Mrs. Sanande?
Here.
Mr. White?
Here.
Mr. Rossini?
I'm here. Flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I don't really have anything to add with regard to the board president's report, other than I think we're done. And which is interesting, too. I talk about the weather a lot, but it's got a lot of components, meaning it's days missed by the kids and adding on days to the end of the year, as well as there's a financial aspect to it in terms of clearing snow and all the other things. So I think we really did well to, hopefully dodge that bullet. I know that there's been storms in April. There was one when I was in college, which ruined the baseball season. But hopefully we don't have that, and that's about it. With regard to committee reports, let's start with Mr. White. Buildings and Grounds?
Nothing to report for this evening.
Mrs. Berkowitz is not here. Do we have anything for communications and policies?
Nothing other than there are several policies on the agenda for first reading tonight.
Okay. Mrs. Sanande, Curriculum and Technology?
No update at this time. Our next meeting is in April.
Okay. Mrs. Pintarelli, do you have anything to say about finance?
Yes, we just had a finance meeting. Tonight, we will be voting on our tentative budget. That's Business Resolution B9. Ms. Ippolito will speak more to that, and once it is approved, it will be sent down to the county tomorrow. Then we will hold a public meeting on May 6th. That's my report.
I have nothing to add about negotiations, and Mrs. Asor is not here with regard to personnel. Is there anything that we need to know that you can think of? Okay. Please take note of the committee meeting schedule down below. And now I'm going to move on to public comments on agenda items only, and I'm also going to add, again, we're going to get to a point later on where we're going to have public comments on general items. These rules will apply equally for both. The Rivervale Board of Education is committed to encouraging the citizens of Rivervale and employees of the Rivervale School District to speak directly to board trustees. In order to facilitate this communication, residents and employees are requested, 1, to sign in before speaking, 2, to maintain an appropriate sense of decorum, and 3, to limit their remarks to no more than 5 minutes. The board will also take under advisement the written comments and opinions of non-residents that are submitted to the board secretary. Being mindful of its responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of meetings, the board retains the right to rule on such matters as the speaker's right to address the board, as well as the appropriateness of the subject being presented. The board's decision in such matters is final. The board is also reminds all members of the public that while it subscribes without reservation to the principle of keeping the community informed, by policy and law, it cannot allow public discussion of personnel matters, nor can trustees comment on any current or pending litigation. If a matter concerning an employee of the Rivervale Public Schools is of interest or concern to a resident, the matter should be referred to the responsible building principal or the superintendent of schools by telephone, letter, or email. I'm going to open the meeting to agenda items only at approximately 7:10 p.m. Is there anybody who wants to make a comment on an agenda item? Seeing no one, I'm going to close it at 7:10 p.m. and move on to Mrs. Signori's superintendent's report.
Okay, thanks. Good evening, everyone. First, tonight I do want to just thank the PTA. They brought in a national PTA reflections program for all of our students. And this program, it encourages creative expression and appreciation for the arts across various disciplines like dance, music. And it really did provide our students with an opportunity to showcase some of their talent. And I'm particularly proud to announce that several students from our district received honors for the New Jersey PTA Reflections Competition. So I want to say congratulations to Addison Fahey for receiving the Award of Excellence for Dance Choreography, Annabelle Lusberg for also receiving the Award of Excellence for Dance Choreography, Drew Ryman, he received the award for music composition, and Grayson Fung for receiving the Award of Excellence for Photography. They are then going to go on to compete at the state level. So I just want to congratulate all of them and thank the PTA for their support and bringing this program to our district. It's at least the first time that we've had it here in my time here, and it might even be the first time we've had it. So it was really a nice program, and our students represented our district very well. So that's all. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Good report. Mrs. Ippolito, Board Secretary's report.
Okay, thank you. Just a reminder to the board, still several of you need to enter your ethics forms. They're due March 30th. The NJ school boards workshops, there's a virtual spring conference and equity expo. If anybody's interested, please let me know. I'll sign you up. Reminder that Thursday evening at 6:30 is the Pascack Valley Regional Board Retreat for those of you that are able to attend. That's at Pascack Hills. And the Rivervale DPW has been coordinating with the county to do a cleanup project. And they have students involved, and they're going to be cleaning up the property at Woodside, and they're going to be doing that on the 22nd, so they'll be supervised, and it's a nice community event. And then also just to advise the board as we move forward with the annex renovation project, we had our building walkthrough last Friday. We had 2 vendors, 2 contractors show up. We've had probably 8 contractors pick up the bid specs, but not all of them came to the walkthrough. So the bid opening is on the 2nd of April. We hope that we have lots of competitive bidders, and we look to award that contract on the 8th of April. In terms of the proposed 25-26 budget, thank you to the Finance Committee members who have participated in this. It's not an easy process, and I know at times it becomes overwhelming, but we persevered, and as Mrs. Pintarelli had stated in our agenda, we're looking to approve the tentative budget so that we can submit that to the county. They review it, and then our public hearing, as we will present it to the public will be on May 6th. So, as everyone is familiar, this is a revenue cap. The way that the budget starts is from last year's tax levy. There's an automatic 2% that the board can elect to increase their budget by. In this particular case, there was an increase in enrollment that the state uses a weighted average to calculate from our ASSA numbers, which are from October 15th. We report the number of students in different categories, and from October 15th of 2023 to 2024, there was an increase in 39 students. So in order to accommodate for those students, they need supplies and there's additional costs. The state recognizes that, and they allow for an enrollment adjustment, which means that you can increase your tax levy by that adjustment. The enrollment adjustment that was calculated by the state was $475,703. That is an automatic adjustment. It's not anything that the board needs to calculate or request. It's just based numbers to numbers from one year to another. So the Finance Committee, we met and we talked about the increases that we are seeing in terms of the budget. One of the examples is that we have a rather large increase in the tuition rates of our out-of-district students. We also have a rather large increase in terms of our health benefits, which the state is in control of, and that was a 12% increase on the majority of the plans that are offered. So overall, those were the two major areas, as well as we're expecting a 12 to 15% increase in our utilities, which has been advertised in online and in the paper. So in terms of our budget, the Finance Committee, we've had our discussions, and with all in, we have a few retirements which have been taken into account. We have had these increases, and the recommendation of the Finance Committee is to utilize the enrollment adjustment. We do have banked capacity that is available. However, it is not recommended to utilize that banked capacity at this time because that would also increase your tax levy. The Finance Committee believes that all of the finances and financial obligations and the educational obligations are met within this budget. We are utilizing $100,000 of our emergency reserve to offset some of the healthcare costs. We're also using $198,000 to offset some of our maintenance costs from our maintenance reserve, as well as using $600,000 from the previous budget that was not spent. I've increased the interest that we are expecting for the year based on interest rates. We did receive $83,000 more in state aid. So with that being said, the recommendation for the budget is a 3.97% increase tax levy to tax levy, with the additional ratables that have come onto the books for the town. That will be a 2.26% tax impact. So in terms of dollars, that is $153.33 on the average home, which is $595,000. That is the recommendation of the Finance Committee. And again, it's B9 in our agenda. And remember, this is our technical budget. Adjustments can be made at the public hearing, so further discussion can be had. And that is the recommendation at this time. Does anybody have any questions?
Just wondering, that 475,000 that you talked about for the 39 students, that is something we're going to pursue or not?
We are.
Okay. And the 12 to 15% on the utilities, that's just a projection at this point,
Correct.
right? Okay.
And that's based on industry standards. That's not just Rivervale. Any other questions? Okay, that's all I have for this report. Thank you.
Thank you. It's very detailed. Thank you. So we'll move on then to general resolutions G1 through G4. Will somebody move it, please?
I'll move G1 through G4.
Second.
I'll second.
Discussion? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Certainly. Mrs. Pintarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Sanande?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Rossini?
Yes. Would somebody please move B1 through B19?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any questions or discussion on this? The major part, which we already went over, B9. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Certainly. Mrs. Pintarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Sanande?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Rossini?
Yes. And now, would somebody please move P1 through P8?
I'll move them.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Just going to note that we're losing a lot of our senior good teachers. Mrs. Janitzi, again, will be missed. Anything else? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Certainly. Mrs. Pintarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Sanande?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Rossini?
Yes. So now we're going to move to public comments, general items. As I mentioned earlier, the same rules apply as I read earlier, and I'm going to open it up to general items on public comments on general items at approximately 7:22. Anybody? I'm going to close it at 7:22. Old business? New business? Are we going into closed? Motion
Motion to adjourn?
Anybody against?
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.